This is Charger Career Connect. I'm Rob Thompson. That's Chris D over there, 2014 graduate, a draft pick by the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and he returned back to us on North Campus to coach and to get his MBA in 2017. So a lot of you watching this, you remember Chris running around campus and certainly at up on North Campus, blasting the ball over the fence. But Chris, thanks for joining.
Yeah, Rob, happy to be here, and it's good to see you.
So let's jump into it. Obviously, this is Career Connect. So this is about kind of that transition from being a student athlete. Obviously, you are a pro athlete as well. So that's even a double whammy, because now you got to transition from being a college student athlete to being a pro athlete to then entering the real world. Let's talk about you and your journey. Where did you grow up and how did you get to the University of New Haven?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, Central Connecticut. I went to Conard High School, and I just grew up in a normal situation, I guess. I had I had a lot of resources available to me, and I had a good group of individuals, including my family around me, that were really supportive. But when it came to, I played baseball, as you said, and baseball was life, and it has been life for a very long time. I'm sure we'll get into the transition away from sports. Funny enough, I when I first got recruited by the University of New Haven, I'll never forget it. I got off the phone with Rafael Serrato, at the time was the head coach. And I asked my mom, and I was like, where the hell is University of New Haven? And I had never heard of it. Come to find out, especially the baseball program has had such a storied, history of success. Obviously, everyone down in the New Haven area knows who Porky Vieira is, right? So it just seemed to make a lot of sense with, my skill set, kind of what they were looking for, and the opportunity to play wood bat in the collegiate level was ultimately the decision that led me to the University of New Haven. Funny enough, it was just something growing up playing Legion, using wood. It's just something, it was real baseball, I thought, and being able to have the opportunity to use a wood bat in college really kind of solidified my decision to come to UNH. I'm sure we'll talk about, my education and stuff, but I came to University of New Haven to play baseball. Even though my mom always told me, don't make your decision about sports, sports was everything, and it was everything until, recently, believe it or not. And, it ended up working out in a lot of different ways. So I'm very happy of that and proud of that. But it was just as simple as it wasn't necessarily because of the great academic programs that UNH does have. It was just simply because I wanted the opportunity to play at the next level, and UNH gave me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, but you still had to deliver on that too. You can only you get in a game, it's on you. The things you do off season, the things that you were provided with strength and conditioning with Foggy, and all the resources that the play, you still had to deliver that. Your talent and your skill had to match your ambition, and that doesn't always happen. Majority of the time it does not happen because one of those elements are missing. But, I think a lot of kids, Chris, that get into it, come here because of, or just go to any college for that matter, especially if you're a student athlete, you are driven by, you want to continue to play. You're competitive. You're one of 8% of high school kids that go on to play college ball. And then you're one of 1% or 1.5% to go on to play professional baseball, and so the odds are against anybody that comes out of high school that wants to continue to play. Right. So you're in a very select club, but let's talk about that. Cause at some point you had to realize you had to lean on the things that you learned, and more so of opening up your eyes to discovery of business. Yeah. So talk a little bit more about that. Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family?
Yeah, great question. So I'll say yes. You know, my mom and dad, they both operate a family business. It's a steel fabrication company, Engineered Building Products in Bloomfield, Connecticut, just to give them a little plug.
Yeah.
But it was started by my grandfather on my mother's side. So she's the treasurer and co-owner with my uncle. My dad's the general manager. And you know, in that regard, you know, business and business acumen was something that was discussed and something that I was around growing up. My dad also had a side hustle, a little cleaning business that he had for a long time while I was growing up. You know, he ended up selling it, but it was, yeah, being around, you know, business was a part of me growing up. You know, and it taught me, and my parents, I give a lot of credit to my parents, they taught me a lot of values that were directly related to how they ran their business. You know, it was about hard work, you know, and you know, the hard work at that point for me was, again, I can't lie, I wasn't really all that focused on the academic side, you know, in high school at the time. But the hard work for me came in my dedication and passion for sport, you know, and baseball was my true passion and what I saw a potential future in, you know. So it was something that I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I went into college. So through a conversation with my parents, it made sense. Business is awesome and also terrible for the same reason, right? In business, you can do anything, which is great, but it's also terrible because you can do anything. There's so many directions you can go in. So I think it just made sense for me to start my higher education learning, you know, the ins and outs of some of the business practices and skills that we'll need to move forward. And then from there, I could have a better understanding of exactly where I wanted to have that direction take me. Yeah.
So, you know, you're not much different than a lot of other students that, I mean, you didn't get out that long ago. So like I said,
Yeah.
a lot of people will probably still know you, and a lot of the freshmen and stuff, probably, you know, guys that you kids that you coached. But there's a discovery process, and it's more about self-discovery of yourself than it is about what you want to do for a living.
Yeah.
Like, because then you start realizing what you're good at. You know, sports has a way of telling you what you're good at and what you're not good at quickly, right? You
Oh, yeah.
know where everybody is on the field. You know who's good and who's not. You can't lie. No one can. You can't BS a BSer when it comes to sports, right? Every one of our teammates, we knew who was good and who wasn't. We knew who was a jokester. We knew who was just a really hard worker, and we respect him, right? So you get past that point. Now you know about you. You start digging deep about yourself, Chris, about you as a business professional.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself during this transition?
Well, for one, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of sports really teaches you so many skills that are so applicable to life after sport, life after school, and when you're in a professional setting. So I'm really grateful that I had a long duration of playing sports to help me build some of those skills. But you know, the transition from sport to business, you know, again, a lot of the skills translated. So it was about, for me, I knew, you know, very quickly that sitting behind a desk 9 to 5 wasn't going to work, you know, and being in a job that I didn't like and I was miserable at every day, it wasn't going to work. Now, obviously, not everyone's fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do something that they love. So I wanted to make sure that without a doubt that I was doing something or I was going to transition into something that I had a passion for. And that's why I started coaching. You know, obviously I got my MBA, my master's degree while I was coaching, but I kind of lingered, and Coach Solano could probably attest to this as well. I probably lingered in the coaching game a little bit longer than I probably should have, because it was, for me, this is all hindsight now, but looking back, I loved coaching, working with the guys, just being around the guys, being around baseball, right? It's what I knew and it's what I loved. I still love it to this day. You know, I call real estate my professional passion. Baseball is my life passion, you know? And, you know, it took, you know, Coach Solano sitting me down and just having a tough conversation with me to get me to understand that I was just holding on to something because I was afraid of taking that leap of faith into that next step. But I had found, and he knew that I had found the next passion of my life, which was business and specifically real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find that the competitiveness of it, the grind of chasing the next deal, getting up every day, trying, preparing yourself mentally and physically, just like you do as an athlete, you need to as a business professional. You
Oh,
can't lose that skill set and that those repetitions every day. Um, is that what the transition, especially in real estate, was that as close to being competitive in sports? And did that fill that void for you?
in a lot of ways it did. Like baseball, and I'll speak specifically to baseball because baseball is a day in and day out grind. Speaking from the MLB standpoint, 162 game season. It's every day. Not that other sports you don't prepare yourself every day, but speaking in baseball, yeah, it's day in and day out, and if you don't enjoy the process and the grind, as you called it, of waking up every day and just getting after it, it's going to eat you alive, and you're not going to be able to make it. So real estate being a commission only, field of work, you got to wake up every day hungry, looking for what's next, hoping for what's next and going out there and getting it done. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and that's kind of there's a lot of other reasons why I like real estate, but yeah, waking up and my fate is in my hands, and I would rather it be in no one else's. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, because when you look at where we are and where the world's going to from a business perspective, I talk about this before, Chris. It's that freelance, that commission only, that consulting. That's the world that we're faced with, and we're going to be faced with for a very long time. So, getting into that, unless you're going into government or law enforcement, where you have pensions and all that, that's different, right? Those things probably may or may not change. I don't know, but in the business world, in corporate America, this commission based eat what you kill mentality, here's my billable hours, you don't get anything on the back end, you need to start preparing yourself. So what was it, and what's some of those things that if students are looking to go that route to begin with, what are things that you had to learn on the back end about um, putting money aside for your taxes, benefits, investing? And I know besides being a real estate agent, you're investing in rental property. So what are those things that you had to know, those soft skills that you had to learn that they could start thinking about now?
Yeah, great question. And I gotta go back to my parents on this one because again, with them being business owners, and it's a similar concept to me being in a commission only basis where it's a eat what you kill sort of mentality, being the business owner. If they have a rough quarter, they're paying their employees, they're not paying themselves, so they're gonna do what they need to do to make sure the people they employ are happy and they can eat at the end of the day, right? They instilled in me very early that you almost needed to look towards the future and then work your way backwards to the now, right? And they're talking specifically to what are you going to do when you want to retire, right? Because in a lot of cases, retiring it's a choice, but sometimes people who want to retire can't retire because they don't have the resources in place in order to do so. So that got me involved in investing in the stock market, and just putting money aside, kind of out of sight, out of mind, letting it grow so that, down the road, I would be putting myself in a better position to have the option when I wanted the option to retire and be able to live a comfortable lifestyle, the lifestyle that I would want to. So I think the most important thing I can say on this topic to anybody that's listening that's college age, start right now, right? And there's resources out there, and if you just do your research, I mean, in the business they talk about compound interest, so you should understand the power of it, right? If you just save $1 a month, that's much more significant 20, 30 years from now if you're not saving anything. Because if you're not saving anything, it's going to be zero, right? You're saving a little, it's going to be something much greater than the little you're saving now down the road, right? And I know it's sometimes hard, and it might put you in a position where you feel like you're pinching pennies. But you know what? When you're trying to grow something, our youth is the time to work on growing something. Because I promise you now, you know, in our college days, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later on, but you know, it feels like that's it. Like this is the greatest it's gonna get. And I promise you that it can get much greater if you allow it to get greater, and you have the patience and also the work ethic to allow it to do so.
So
Yeah.
what is that, those skill sets though? Though right now, knowing what we have access to from a digital standpoint, from a social media standpoint,
Yeah.
from a back end financial accountability standpoint as individuals, everybody's their own little brand now,
Yeah.
right? So you start monetizing your own brand, you know, on Instagram and in wherever, Facebook and Twitter, if you knew how to. Um,
Yeah.
what are those skill sets that you think that students should start thinking about now, regardless of whether you think you're going to get drafted, play in the major leagues or not? What are those simple skill sets that they could apply to every day right now?
Yeah. And and first off, just to hit on what you said last, guy, if you guys have aspirations playing professionally, go for it, right? Go do it, because again, you can't do it when you're 50, right? You can do it right now. So put your heart and soul into trying to get that done, so that if you fall a little bit short, at least you can say it's like, you know, at least I gave it my best effort, right? Because you're going to be kicking yourself when the time comes and goes, you don't get signed, and you look back and you're like, well, shit, I could have done this and this and this, and then you know you're really kicking yourself, right? But you know, some of the skills, some of the tools, you know, discipline over work ethic, in my opinion. You know, if you can be disciplined with your finances, if you can be disciplined with your time, because I think time is the most valuable resource over money, then you're going to put yourself in a good position where you can start to build and create momentum, right? Um, you know, aside from the discipline, like for me, I have a morning routine that I do every day, right? Every day, and it's just something that gets me energized and gets me feeling good about the day to come, right? You know, and then aside from that, you got to have a little bit of patience, right? I kind of coined the phrase. I'm sure somebody else in the world, you know, much smarter than me has said it before, but patience in the vision, sense of urgency every day, right? So it's kind of an oxymoron in the sense where it's like I know where I want to be and I need to be patient in order to get there, but that doesn't mean I can't bust my ass every single day in to make sure that when I fall asleep at night, I know that I had a great day and I did everything that I could to move forward towards the vision that I have for my future.
Yeah.
So discipline, work ethic, and you know, you gotta understand the process is what is going to drive the result, right? You got to fall in love with the process. And that's why for me, I knew I wasn't going to be satisfied with, you know, a job or a career that I didn't have a passion for, right? Because, you know, baseball really taught me that the process is what's going to bring the results that you want. The results that you want aren't going to be capable. You're not going to be capable of getting them if you have a process that is inefficient or ineffective, or it's just not going to get the job done, right?
Got you.
So that's what I would say.
So two more questions. So these are gonna be layups for you.
All right.
So is there anybody that's looking to get into, say, interested in real estate or investing in real estate or rental properties or anything? Is there any podcasts or books that you would suggest reading, or maybe inspirational books right now that you're reading?
Yeah, great question. I have a whole slew of books, so I could certainly send you a list if you want notes for the podcast. But Bigger Pockets podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
It is an absolutely phenomenal in real estate investing podcast.
Yeah.
These guys are phenomenal. They started out as just normal people and they've built absolute empires, you know. Brandon Harris, I think his name is, and David Green, the
Yep.
two hosts.
Yep.
They're just David Green was a cop, you know,
Yep,
and
that's right.
he worked 80 hours a week to save the money necessary because of the vision he had for his future. And now he's built himself into owning, I don't know, it's like 100 million in real estate, right?
Yeah.
So I think the point that they drive home every single week, well, they do 2 releases every week now, is if you set your mind to something and you're willing to do what it takes to figure it out and adjust and learn from the failure, because you're going to fail, right? And maybe that's something I should have touched on too, is that failure is not failure. It's only the opportunity to learn.
Yep.
It's only failure if you choose not to learn from what you failed on, right? So just learning from your failure and learning how to adjust so you don't fail in that same way again, it's so important. So Bigger Pockets podcast is huge. They have a bunch of books too, if you'd rather read your information rather than listen to it. You have some big boys out there. You got Grant Cardone, you have Gary Keller. These are all real estate based resources. And even me, right? I'm not a big timer like these yet, but I certainly have, aspirations to be one day. Just have a conversation with me, because I advise everybody, because everybody at one point, everyone needs a place to live, right? So whether you're buying a house, you're looking for an apartment to rent, or maybe you've already bought and you're looking to sell and move on to the next step, be proactive and learn what you need to do with the process and how you need to handle it before you're right in the middle of the process. 6, 8, 10 months, a year out, contact somebody, contact me, talk to me, and I'd be more than happy to tell you exactly what to expect, so that I'm sorry for the potty mouth, but so when the shit hits the fan, you've at least had some sort of preparation in terms of what to do when it doesn't go the right way. Because I'm sure you have experience with this too, Rob. A real estate transaction, most of the time, it's not going to be smooth from the beginning to the end, right? There's going to be some sort of hiccups because there's a lot of things going on. And that's when you just need to take a step back, be a little proactive with your time and your efforts to just to understand what needs to be done and how you need to go about your business.
Yeah. So anytime you're going to sell real estate, just leave them a nice media room and they'll close the deal every time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Don't worry about the potty mouth. Now you're starting to sound like a 50-year-old. So don't age too quickly there, Chris.
I'm an old soul, but I still got the young face, right?
You are an old soul. Demo, thank you for your time. And as always, like I said, guys, you got some time. There's a runway for you to discover, right? Chris went through a discovery process in his career as well. He went through the coaching side of it, loved it. Now he looks like he wants to make some money. So he got out of coaching right now for the time being. Yeah. Right. But remember, if you make more, you could give more, and you could give more. Chris is right on. You give more of your time. You could give more of your energy to do some of the other things that might be a passion project. But once you figure out with your talent, your energy, your efforts, when they all kind of come together, that's when the magic happens. But, like I say all the time, you're going to figure out what you hate doing long before you discover a career that you love. So don't panic. Don't get anxiety ridden about it. Use this time to discover, network, build your mentor network as well. And Chris is always available. He went through it. He did the same thing that you guys have done. He did it, and he had a dream. He had a goal. He came to the University of New Haven. He hit his goal, and he got drafted in Major League Baseball. So after that, sometimes game is not over. The bar's higher for him, because he's a high achiever. So you start thinking about success leads clues. You start thinking about it. He has a morning routine, right? You get that you don't get off of what you've learned and what is burnt in your brain here. This carries over to your business life. So Chris, thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Go Chargers.
They go Chargers. So on behalf of Chris, this is Rob. You're watching Career Connect program. As always, we'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.